and welcome back to the program. You're watching Morning Thailand with a recap of 2013. Of course, as the year is ending, well, today on the 31st, I have a bit of a recap of the environmental issue that we faced for 2013, one of the biggest, and it started quite early in the morning. A lot of people were actually quite shocked because they say that, well, the explosion took place just before the oil actually got to the beach shore. However, we did not get we weren't informed until it was actually really close, or even visible already. And this took place on July the 27th of this year, early at about 6:50 a.m. in the morning out in the shore. And it belongs to the PTT Global Chemical Pipe Companies, which is the part of the most famous, well, I would say the biggest energy companies here in Thailand for the oil. And they say that the PTT pipeline was actually broke and crude oil leaked from the pipe in the Rayong province, which is a little bit further out in the sea though. And that created quite a bit of a problem around the area, especially several of the islands. Now, especially in the Ao Prao Bay of the Summit Islands. Summit Islands is very famous. I mean, if you haven't been there already, you should pay a visit because at this time it's already cleared out, but it created quite a bit of controversial. Over 50,000 liters of crude oil pretty much spread out in the sea. And the thing is, once that happened, it's just really hard to clean. A lot of people were worried about for the animals, the marine lives in the area, whether or not they will actually be in trouble due to this particular case. However, it seems that the company is trying their best to make sure that everything is going to go back into normal. However, that took quite a bit of a time. They're trying to use the boom or the oil skimmer to actually try to, recover all this oil. But that didn't happen too well. They requested the Navy help, and even Singaporean company have to send the help in order to help the area being clean because it ran a chance of spreading to other part of the ocean as well. Now, after a long volunteers as well as paid help in terms of trying to clean up the area. The area was cleaned up quite a bit and now is back to normal. But during that time, it spurred up another, incident in the Thai society is the volunteering. A lot of people volunteer to actually get there to help, but obviously that came with the warning that people that want to volunteer to clean up this particular type of crude oil, they say that you have to prepare yourself. There hasn't been any report of anyone got seriously ill from the side effect of the crude oil around the area while they were cleaning. But still, they say that to be very, very careful. And of course, at this point, PTT still have to compensate all the people in the area. They talk about the compensation, but several people were still complaining about not really getting there. And for over a month, like a few months, there has been a problem of tourism just drastically decreased because no one else wants to go into the area.
Right, and I think that there have been quick campaigns and commercials and ads that were done trying to bring back the confidence.
But as you can see, the oil seep into the sand
it's still
as well.
Pretty much quite visible. I think what the best that they could do is at least cover it up a little bit on the surface. That's true, but even sea animals and even restaurants, despite the fact that they do come out to say, right, that it's safe, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, stop eating the food.
But
and several ministries have to had seafood in front of the camera
as an example to show that it was safe.
Exactly. That was quite interesting as well.
Okay. Well, apart from the big story about the oil spill there. there. There was also another case that you mentioned, Kun Golf, about the Mawong Dam. And just the case itself wouldn't have been as big if it wasn't for a huge walk or a kind of a march that was done in order to try to heighten the cases of the Mawong Dam that was going on. Obviously, people were not happy about it because it was done without transparency. They weren't sure whether it was really for the benefit of the people or not, and even the measures or the approaches that were used to approve such contracts to basically go on for the Mawong Dam procedures there. So this is mentioning about the particular talks and walks that went on. And it was a walking marathon campaign that was led by the conversationist here, Sasin Chalermla. And he is the Secretary General of the Serb Nakasatian Foundation. And Sasin launched the 388-kilometer walk from Mawong National Park in Nakhon Sawan Province to Bangkok. And this was in October. And it also converted many people into, conversationists, of course, along the way. And this is to protest against the plan to build the dams in the pristine environment, which is known as a breeding ground, especially for tigers. And the walk reignited the environmental movement in Thailand, and it put a question mark over the worthiness of the government's water management project and also the procedure that was used basically to approve it. Like I said, some of the processes of, the green light or go ahead for some of these dams were done when the environmental assessment wasn't even done yet.
Right.
And that's why it was questioned. And it seems like, if it wasn't because of this particular case sparking another case to occur, these dams would have been, made without the consent of the people.
Right.
Anyways, but, just to mention, there were some of the locals that did come out to say that if it's for the benefit of, preventing, really being able to prevent, the possible floodings or whatnot, and helping, then okay, we're okay to compensate some part of the land if it really is beneficial.
And that's the thing. That's why you have to have the environmental impact assessment or the EIA done beforehand.
That's right. But obviously in this case, it wasn't. So that one was the one for the Mawong Dam. But to mention about other projects, other controversial projects in particular, I would say that was mentioned, would be about the 350 billion baht water management project. That water management scheme that came out, it was very pricey. And it brought, of course, massive public protest about it. The conservationists again and affected villagers questioned about this transparency and necessity of the scheme, which proposes the construction of more than 20 dams. And it's some of them in the national parks and the fertile forest. And also, not to mention, some of them were actually supposed to be built on active fault line.
And that's the thing, that's why it's controversial, and that's tied to the Mawong Dam.
Right.
Mawong Dam does have several EIA or environmental impact assessment reports done, but it did not pass.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why they keep on doing it. But the thing is, EIA is there so that you can measure whether or not you should do it at the land that you say you would have. And the problem with this particular bill is that with over 20 dams will be built without the EIA done before, and you already allocated money for it.
Right.
That's create a lot of suspicion, isn't it?
That's basically why the court has finally come out to rule in favor of the conservationists and demanded the environmental studies to really be done. Now that the House has been dissolved, they mentioned that the fate of the project is right now unclear.
Right.
Though the government has shown signs that it wants to forge ahead with the plan anyway. So I guess this is one of the fights that would not be over in 2013, but could, of course, spill over to 2014 to see how the government as well as the people are going to be able to come to a negotiation or an agreement.
Right.
In the case of this 350 billion baht water management project, it's very, very expensive indeed.
Oh yeah, very pricey, that's for sure. Now, with that, we're gonna take another short break because when we come back, wow, the expenses that seems to be increasing, especially the living costs that hiking, including the LPG gas, The one that I just personally got struck with is the expressway that actually increased as well, and the electricity bills. And at this point, there's also the talk about several of interesting policy, the rice pledging scheme, as well as the 2.2 trillion baht loan. So with that, we're going to come back after a short break.